Good evening. Welcome, viewers. Welcome to our podcast, Bharat and Geopolitics. Today's topic is exploring mind of India's adversaries, where we unravel the mysteries and motivation behind those who challenge us. I am your host here, Hari Prakash Sinha. I am thrilled to embark on this intellectual journey with you as we delve into the psyche of individuals and groups who pose challenges to India's interests. In a world shaped by complex geopolitical dynamics, understanding the perspectives and intentions of adversaries is paramount. Through insightful conversations, expert analysis, and in-depth research, this podcast aims to shed light on the factors driving adversarial behavior and the implications for India's security, diplomacy, and strategic interests. Join me as we peel back the layers of history, ideology, and geopolitics to gain a deeper understanding of the adversaries that shape India's strategic landscape. From neighboring nations to global actors, we will explore the multifaceted dimensions of conflict, competition, and cooperation in the pursuit of national security and regional stability. Whether you are a scholar, policymaker, or simply curious about intricacy of international relations, this podcast invites you to expand your perspective and engage in thought-provoking discussions on the ever-evolving dynamics of global security. Join me in welcoming our distinguished speaker, Dr. Adityanjee. Dr. Adityanjee, it's a pleasure to have you on our podcast today. Your expertise and insights are invaluable, and we are excited to dive into our discussions together. Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us, with our audience, and let's make this conversation memorable. So welcome, Dr. Adityanjee. Welcome to our platform.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Sinha. It's always a pleasure to come on your platform and discuss about ideas and issues. Pleased to be here.
Thank you so much, sir. So, without waiting much, I am just diving into the discussion. So, I am coming to you with my first question. What are the key geopolitical objectives and strategic interests of India's adversaries in the region? And how do they perceive India's role in shaping regional dynamics?
So,
So,
Mr. Sinha, while giving your introduction, you use the word uh, individuals and groups amongst India's adversaries.
yeah.
Uh, so that actually broadens the conversation. Individuals, groups that can be non-state actors,
Yeah.
or countries.
Yeah.
If we include individuals and non-state actors, this discussion becomes very large indeed. So I'll refrain from actually invoking those
Okay.
entities.
It's okay,
I
sir.
just refer to countries. Secondly, the term adversary also is somewhat vague. When we say adversary, we are talking probably about strategic adversary uh, vis-a-vis a nation. So when we look into international relations, there can be friendly nations, two nations can be friendly, or they can be a neutral relationship between two states, state being nation states, not provinces, or they can be rivals or what we call strategic or peer competitors.
I
And
see.
as we go deeper into the relationship, uh, peer competitors can be strategic adversaries, which could be outright strategic enemies,
Yes.
or You could have certain countries that I would call frenemies, that they are sometimes friends, but their actions are such that they serve more as harmful to our strategic interests. So term adversary or strategic adversary is somewhat nebulous depending upon the situation. And that is reflected in a famous geopolitical statement, usually attributed to Lord Palmerston from Britain, or so his original name was Henry John Temple. He used to be, cabinet member of Britain, the foreign secretary, war secretary, at one point in time, prime minister, that there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies, there are only permanent interests. So
Right.
you see how the concept of adversary can change from time to time, that the same nation at one point in time was a friend, at other time it is an adversary. And the classic example is United States and Soviet Union were allies
Yeah.
in Second World War, and then they became enemies. And then one country led to the dissolution or disintegration of Soviet Union. And the successor country, Russian Federation, now started as a friend of United States and is now a permanent enemy. So we need to understand.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a Subhashita, which I am very fond of invoking. If you look at our own roots, and basically it goes like this: Na kaschit kasya chinamitram, na kaschit kasya chidrapuhu, vyavaharin jayante, mitrani ripavastatha. What it literally says, na kaschit kasya chinmitram, nobody is ever your friend, and nobody is ever your enemy. Na kaschit kasya chidrapahu, forever enemy. Vyavaharin jayante, by your behavior, it is born or it is brought to the notice whether somebody is your mitrani vipavastata, somebody is your friend or somebody is your enemy. So it depends upon the context, it depends upon the time. And I'll give you an example. When you say region, I hope you're talking about South Asia or Southeast Asia region,
Yeah.
correct?
Yes.
Because how we define region will increase the periphery or parameter, and then the number of countries involved in that area will also increase. So how enemies and friends change, I'll give you an example. One would say that in general, Sri Lanka has been a friendly country to India
Yeah. For a long time.
for a long time.
Yeah.
But there was a time under a particular administration, Sri Lanka took a lot of actions that were inimical to India's interests. Is that true?
Yeah.
And now, under the current administration, against Sri Lanka is pursuing friendly relationship with India.
Yes.
See how relationship between two nations is context dependent. Similarly, if you say relationship between India and Maldives, generally people said that India and Maldives are friendly countries. India came to the rescue of Maldives several times.
Yeah. It has
In
been.
just one election in Maldives, the current president is pursuing very hostile, overtly inimical policies to India, inviting actually India's strategic adversary, if not enemy,
Yeah.
is China, into the region, giving them military bases. Apparently, they've sold an island to China,
Yeah.
entered bilateral military relationship, bringing Turkey into this area. So again, you see how relative it is, the concept of enemy versus friend between two nations. Now, there's a possibility that two nations may remain good friends for an enduring period of time if they are treaty bound allies. There's a legally enforceable treaty between the nations that governs the relationship.
Yeah.
So you have some stability of relationship. Unfortunately, in the Asian region, the nation of Bharat does not have treaty-bound relationship with any of our surrounding nations. So the contour of the relationship changes. Having said that, at least there are two nations in the region who have permanent inimical relationship with India. And I have no qualms in saying that, despite this statement that there are no permanent friends or permanent enemies. And if I may just say, the two threats to India, or two inimical threats to India, definitely are the nations of Pakistan and China.
Yes.
Okay. There can be other nations that have served as adversaries. Taliban controlled Afghanistan at some point in time in Taliban 1.0, took a very hostile stance towards India. Remember the Indian Airlines
Yeah.
hijacking, how they
Yes.
had behaved,
Yes.
how they, destroyed the Bamiyan Buddhas, how they expelled Hindu and Sikh population from that country. Right now, but under, Yusufzai administrations and Abdul Ghani administrations,
Yeah.
there was some better relationship, and now it's kind of strained, cold relationship with Afghanistan. Similarly, country like Bangladesh,
Yeah. I have a lot of reservation about Bangladesh actually.
yeah. So we cannot say Bangladesh is a friendly country. The administration and the government may be superficially pro-India or so-called pro-India or friendly, but if you look at the population, the non-state actors, the political parties, and actually if you see the conduct of that country, it is
Yes.
highly inimical to India. So again, it is how we define them. Now, when we say that India's strategic adversaries, what are their geopolitical objectives and strategic interests, it depends upon the country concerned. They cannot be lumped together. Now, for purposes of this discussion, I will just confine to two countries. One is Pakistan, and second is China.
Yes.
Let's start with Pakistan. Pakistan was born in 1947. We all know that. Pakistan is congenitally anti-Indian. The birth of Pakistan is birth of a creation of an enemy nation state next to India's periphery.
Right. Right.
And it is reflexively anti-Indian. Any attempts by any Indian government to have friendly relationship with the nation of Pakistan have not succeeded, will not succeed, and it is imperative that our future governments have institutional memory to understand this behavior pattern and not try to be friendly with Pakistan. I will give you two examples.
Yeah.
Mr. Vajpayee, he went on a bus yatra to Lahore. What
Yeah.
happened after?
Kargil.
How Pakistan's enemy commander at that point in time refused to salute Mr. Vajpayee as Prime Minister of India. Same person who later on, you know, successfully had a coup and became the dictator of Pakistan. Similarly, with the current Prime Minister, who again, did a stopover at a marriage
Hmm.
of Nawaz Sharif's granddaughter,
Yeah.
unannounced this thing in an effort to bring some bonhomie into the relationship. And what was the result of that? So any policy planner in future has to predicate India's policies and India's behaviors on the basic foundational fact that Pakistan is a strategic enemy. You cannot have friendly relationship.
Recently, they have done a funny thing actually. I am sorry to interrupt you. In the recent swearing ceremony, They were just chanting the Gayatri Mantra.
No, I think that is not true. That is the video is correct, but that is a video of a Pakistani Hindu community celebration for a festival of Holi. It's not a new video. It's a very old video.
Oh,
When Nawaz Sharif was the prime minister, so he was an invitee to the Pakistani Hindu community celebration, whether for Holi or Diwali. And at the beginning of the celebration, they chanted Gayatri Mantra. It had nothing to do with swearing in ceremony. This is a outright distortion people are talking about. That video is correct. Yeah, it was a true video. And you can see the facial reactions of the ruling elite of Pakistan when Gayatri Mantra was being chanted, because it was of discomfort, not happiness,
yeah.
lack of participation, boredom, indifference, all things discussed, everything combined together. But that was not swearing in ceremony. I'm 100% sure about that. It's an old video.
Okay, I
But nevertheless, Pakistan is a strategic enemy.
yeah.
Pakistan's national interests are what? You know, their traditional slogan was हंस के लिया था पाकिस्तान लड़के लेंगे हिंदुस्तान. Let's not forget that.
Yeah.
When their Pakistani politicians used to say that मुजाहिदों के घोड़े लाल किले की दीवारों पर दौड़ेंगे. Pakistan is not a friendly state. Pakistan is a perpetual enemy on the side of India, and their geopolitical interests are a destruction of Indian nation, breakdown of Indian nation into smaller territories, and Islamization of the states of India so that they can become part of larger Islamic Republic of Pakistan. Ziaul Haq talked about strategic depth of Pakistan by incorporating Afghanistan into that. The Khalistan project was to undo the insult given to Pakistan by dismembering Pakistan by India in an analogous manner by creating Khalistan and dismembering India. Tearing asunder the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir, now Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, and duty of Ladakh from India. Demand was made that two wings of Pakistan be given a land corridor in India, 10-mile wide, between east and west wings of Pakistan. What was that demand for? That demand was to bifurcate India into two entities and have a permanent, actually, foothold for Pakistan to interfere into India's domestic politics. Similarly, efforts to retain the Riyasat of Junagadh and Nizam
Yeah.
in Hyderabad as independent countries was part of the project to actually Islamize and make part of a larger Islamic Republic of Pakistan. So Pakistan's objectives are very clear. Governments may come, governments may change, but no government of Pakistan is going to be friendly to India, pro-India. Their stated agenda has been destruction of India. Let's be very clear about it. So that is their strategic objective. That's how their nuclear program is specifically directed towards one country, that is India. And they have changed their nuclear doctrine also from limited deterrence to full spectrum deterrence. They have developed tactical nuclear weapons. They have no compulsion in saying that they will have first use of nuclear weapons against India on the battlefield. Now look at China. China was an indifferent, neutral country as far as India was concerned.
Yeah.
India did not have a land border with China for a long period of time, for thousands of years. The only time there was a war with China and India was when, Mr. Sinha, tell me.
1962.
No. First India-China war was around, I think, 649 AD.
Oh, I see.
Uh, I think I do not remember the whole aspect of it. It was after the Gupta Empire, uh, you know, uh, sort of crumbled. There was a period of instability in India, and there was a short-lasting kingdom in India. And there were some Chinese pilgrims and all. They used to come to India. So there was a conflict with a person or a gang leader or a sort of what you may say Bahubali or something like that from China by name Wang, who had created a force of Tibetan mercenaries because one of the Chinese pilgrims was not treated very well by this person. And they came, they captured this temporary or, transitional king of successor to Gupta Empire and imprisoned him, took him back to Tibet. So that was the first India-China war. It was not started by Tibetans, but by Chinese.
I see.
So we need to have a deeper memory. And the second China war was 1962. But again, China was a distant nation. It was not a neighboring nation. It was not a regional nation. Our next door neighbor was Tibet, is Tibet, and will remain Tibet,
Yeah.
uh, which is a kind of upbranch or a derivative name from a Sanskrit name of the nation, Trivishta. So our next door neighbor was Trivishta, which was under Hindu-Buddhist influence. China occupied Tibet and became our next door neighbor. And that was a grave mistake by India not to perceive China's expansionist aims. China has always been an expansionist power under various dynasties, under various, uh, you know, era. But China's intention for their expansionism was reflected when Mao, after occupation of Tibet, said that, Tibet is the palm of the hand. Tibet is the palm of the hand with 5 fingers. And what are those 5 fingers? Mr. Sinha, what are
Yes,
those
sir.
5 fingers?
Arunachal Pradesh and this Bhutan and then the Assam.
Okay, I'll make it easy. The 5 fingers Mao was referring to was Nepal, Bhutan, Sikkim. So those are the 3 nations.
Yeah.
Fourth is Ladakh, and fifth is uh,
Arun-
our current Arunachal Pradesh that used to be called NEFA, Northeast Frontier Agency during that time. So
Yeah.
those were the 5 fingers, and China is gradually laying claim on all those 5 areas. So China again is an expansionist power. China does not have a religious aim unlike Pakistan. You understand?
Yeah.
Pakistan's objectives are to Islamize India and break up India and absorb parts of India or develop alliances with successor states that would be Islamic states. Because Pakistan believes in the concept of Islamic international imperialism or so-called Islam, whereas China believes that it is the God's gift to the earth, is part of the what is called Middle Kingdom that has divine right to rule, and it is forever expanding Chinese core interests. So China does want to break up India into smaller states. And that's why China developed alliance, a fair weather, permanent ironclad brotherhood with Pakistan, because two enemies are now ganging up against India. But China's interest is not to Islamize India or to spread any uh, ideology. If at all they wanted to spread, it was communism. And now they themselves have actually, they are practicing a hybrid or a bastard version of communism that is actually more authoritarian dictatorial capitalism rather than communism.
Right.
Uh, so China's objectives are also A, breakup of India, B, controlling certain territories, C, making sure that the successor state of India, a truncated India, does not pose a challenge to China. China has no interest in controlling entire India up to Kanyakumari. But of course, more than Pakistan, they have encircled India by having naval assets and ports in Indian Ocean region and around India, whether it is Indian Ocean or it is Gwadar in Pakistan or Hambantota in Sri Lanka or Chittagong in Bangladesh or Sittwe and another port in Myanmar and a naval facility in Cambodia, the Ream naval base. So China is encircling India. Their strategic objective is to contain India, leading to eventual breakdown of India, but not Islamization of India. Whereas Pakistan's strategic objective is to lead to what has been colloquially in Islamic literature or Arabic literature has been called Ghazwa-e-Hind.
Yeah.
That is their unstated aim, and we need to understand that.
So, with the current relation of India with the Gulf countries, mainly UAE and Saudi Arabia, how do you think their dreams, Pakistan dream is going to be affected?
So remember, in the history of modern India since 1947 onwards, there was a time that we did not have very good relationship with Arab countries. It was one-way relationship. Uh, there was a perceived fear that they will stop selling us oil. But as India is rising, they also are realizing the reality that oil will not last forever. Uh, countries like Saudi Arabia had taken in the past very much anti-India attitude in various international fora. Let's be very clear about it. And let's not
Yes.
forget about it. We cannot put wool over our eyes.
Hmm.
In fact, when the Saudi king came in 1955 and visited the city of Varanasi, what had happened? India's Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru put actually curtains over
Hmm.
all the temples. So why invite a foreign dignitary to a Hindu holy city and then hide all the temples so that he is not offended? I think that was an insult to India at that point in time, and that was
Right.
reflective of Saudi attitude.
Yeah.
Then there was a time when Saudi royalty, Saudi king, the state of Rajasthan,
Hmm.
for hunting a particular bird, and that was sponsored by government of India. You know, a lot of things were done to appease them
Yeah.
under two perceived presumptions. One was the oil supply.
Hmm.
Second was vote bank politics or domestic vote bank politics. Uh, that situation seems to be changing as Saudi Arabia is becoming cognizant of the issue of terrorism, domestic terrorism on their own territory. Saudi Arabia was a country that was funding certain non-state actors like Tablighi Jamaat.
Yeah.
Saudi Arabia was a country that actually poured millions and millions of petrodollar in India for, uplifting increased infrastructure in the mosque, putting loudspeakers in the mosque for Islamizing Indian Muslims, radicalizing them in certain ways. And this is all obvious to a perceptive observer of India's strategic scene. But Saudi Arabia is changing because they have realized that the threat to the state of Saudi Arabia, which is founded by the House of Saud, is no longer a quote unquote predominantly Hindu India, but the terrorism that is being exported by Pakistan, Islamic terrorism that is exported to Pakistan.
Yeah.
And Saudi Arabia, the nation, is synonymous with the House of Saud.
Yeah.
So they don't want to be the victim of Islamic terrorists
Yeah.
spread and created in Pakistan that will travel to Saudi Arabia, kill the Saudi royal family, and make it, into an Islamic Republic of Saudi Arabia. So even in Arab countries, not all Arab countries, in some Arab countries, India's rise is being appreciated, India's power is being appreciated, and they are changing from religious to much more sober tone. And that is why you see that countries like Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates are not towing the Pakistan line. There was a time when they did. There was a time when it is stated that Saudi Arabia actually bankrolled Pakistan's nuclear program
Yeah.
under an arrangement in which Saudi Arabia was entitled to fully develop Pakistani nuclear weapons for a price
Yeah.
when
So,
the need comes.
sorry to interrupt you, sir, but we have only 1 minute of time left. So, we'll be taking up the rest of the question in the next session whenever you are
Okay.
free.
Okay,
So,
no
I
problem.
would like to just wrap up this session. Thank you, viewers, for joining us. We are wrapping up this session today. Thank you for joining us on this insightful journey. Remember to subscribe for more enriching conversation. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring. We'll be coming back to you very soon with the rest of the questions on this topic. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Adityanjee. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much indeed, and I hope to join you soon.